Namaskar, दोस्तों आपका मेरा YouTube channel में स्वागत है. Hello, my name is Ruslan. I'm from Russia, and now I will watch video from India. The name of this video: This is India's biggest geopolitical movie, leader of global South. Very interesting. Okay, let's start our video.
Hello and I welcome you all to World Affairs. I'm Prashant Dhawan. If you haven't subscribed to this
Prashant
channel,
Dhawan, hello.
subscribe to World Affairs English. Now,
I subscribe,
before we
yes.
start discussing this topic, the leader of the global south, India's biggest geopolitical move, before we discuss all this, let me show you an image. Now, over here, you can see this beautifully drawn map. And you will also see this red line that sort of divides this map into
Wow.
two halves. This line was created in 1980s and this is called the branded line. It divides the world into
Brand
two halves.
line.
The north side, as you can see, is made up of predominantly wealthy countries, the developed countries where people have a better lifestyle, people are more wealthy, whereas the southern part
Yes.
is relatively
Wow.
poor. Now, obviously, most of you will probably look at down here at Australia and say, wait, why is this curve being drawn here? Why isn't Australia considered a part of the southern region of Earth in the branded line? Well, the reason
Because
behind of
Australia
that is
is
very simple. Both
West countries.
Australia and New Zealand are very developed nations, so they were kept on the northern side of the branded line. And as the years rolled by, we saw that this branded line gave birth to a much larger concept, the concept of a global
Wow.
north, a rich global north and a poor global south. Obviously, one thing you will notice is that in the branded line, since this branded line was made in the 1980s, at that time USSR was still in existence, so most of the Central Asian countries that at that time were part of the USSR have been kept in the
Wow.
northern side. But today, when we look at the rich countries and the poor countries, the rich global north and the poor global south, we actually include the Central Asian countries as part of the global south. And if humanity is to prosper, if we want to make our planet a better place, if we want to ensure that every human being lives a life of dignity, it's
Yes.
important that the disparity, the difference of wealth between the north and the south, it must be bridged, it must be brought down. And this is the
Yes.
core
Good
basis
idea.
of India's biggest geopolitical move. India has decided that it will actually become the voice of the global south. All the
Wow.
countries that you see in the global south, if you count them all, they are roughly about 120 countries. Most of these nations are rich in natural resources. They have had a huge civilizational past. If you look back a few thousand years ago, global south was actually much more prosperous and rich than the global north. So there
Yes.
are a lot of aspirations in global south, a lot of countries that want to reclaim their past glory. And India recently hosted a mega event. It was called The Voice of the Global South. And during this
Wow.
event,
What
India
great
made its aspirations clear that we want
event.
to be the voice of these 125 countries in the global south. The United Nations right now, as it
Great
currently
idea.
stands, is a frozen mechanism. If you just look at UN, four of the five permanent members of the UN Security Council belong to the global north. We have just one seat in the global south. So it's very important that the global south unites under one voice. Now, obviously, one question that will come to your mind is, are we talking about
Wow.
north versus south? Is India trying to lead these 125 countries towards a economic struggle against the north so that we can economically uplift ourselves? What is India trying to do? And shouldn't United States and Europe be worried about this concept of the global south? Well, the answer of these questions is no, not really. India is not really
Wow.
uniting the global south against some kind of a struggle against the global north. No. What India is proposing is a better partnership, a better
Wow.
understanding at the World
What a
Trade
great idea.
Organization, at UN, at various other bodies,
The
where the
voice of
global south
global
also gets a
South.
reasonable amount of benefit from the
India.
progress that humanity as a whole makes. And
Wow.
India's version of a global south is much different than the Chinese version. Yes, China has aspirations of its own global south, and they have often hinted at a rivalry between global north and global south. According to China, in their version of global south, there will be military alliances, there will be friction between North and the South. You can even say that China aspires to create its own NATO to rival the North Atlantic Treaty Organization that dominates the
Ay,
global
ay,
North. So,
ay,
if you look at this
China.
from an American perspective, or perhaps even a
Bad guys.
European perspective, they would much rather prefer an India led global south. They would much rather prefer India to become the voice of the global south rather than China leading the global south against the north, because that will be a completely different story. So, can we say that there is perhaps a small rivalry between India and China regarding the leadership of the global south? You can say that, yes. I mean, look, when India hosted this giant summit, Voice of the Global South, China participated as well, but India announced that India will create a Global South Center for Excellence in India that will work as a uniting center for all of the
Wow,
125
what a
Global South
great
countries.
idea.
And right now, what are
Wow.
the two main issues that impact the Global South? Well, the two main issues are number one, Green Energy Fund. The global north countries have had a much higher contribution to global emissions, and yet they haven't created a green energy fund to finance the global south countries so that we can transition to a much more cleaner form of energy.
Yes.
This is very important to fight climate change, because in the end this will not just impact the global south, it will also impact the global north, albeit the brunt of the impact will be faced by the global south countries.
North
And then there is the
can
issue of the
pay
Ukraine Russia war. Now,
South.
the Ukraine Russia war is predominantly, you can say, a global north topic. It's a global north issue, but it has spilled over to the global south. Because of the conflict, the oil prices have risen around the world, and now the global north is pushing, you can almost say, forcing the global south to isolate Russia, to isolate Russian food, to isolate Russian food exports, Russian energy exports. This is a difficult task for the global south. So, right now, at least for the time being, these are the two main uniting factors for the global south. And this can be an opportunity for India as well. India can actually emerge as a very important geopolitical powerhouse by becoming the voice of the global south. Because, as I said earlier, the north would much rather prefer a sane, a reasonable
I
India
want to
leading
try
the global
to
south rather
live
than an aggressive
in
and belligerent China leading all these 125 countries.
South.
Now, this here is the end of the
Now I
video.
live
If there
in
is any other
North,
topic that you
but
want me
I
to
want
discuss over
to
here, please mention it in the comment section below. I always
go
listen
to
to what you
South.
guys have to say, and I will try my best to make a Hindi version of this video on World Affairs Hindi channel very soon. So, thanks for listening, and God bless you all.
Thank you for this information. Wow, great idea. See you later. Bye bye.